The arrest of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend could raise more awkward questions for Prince Andrew. British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell was found in the US by the FBI and has been charged with helping procure underage girls for the financier who killed himself in a New York prison while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Prince Andrew was a friend of both Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and one of Epstein's accusers has also claimed she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew on 3 occasions when she was 17. He denies the claims. But US investigators have publicly repeated requests to talk to the Prince. Royal correspondent Victoria Arbiter is in New York with all the details.
It was an absolute shocker, actually, because since Epstein was arrested last year on sex trafficking charges, she's not been spotted anywhere. It now turns out she's been moving around under the radar. The FBI said during a press conference this afternoon that they have been discreetly watching her for the last few months. So I guess they felt like they had enough evidence to swoop in and pick her up, which is what they did very early in the morning on Thursday. She was found at a remote location, a house that she had purchased under a company name last December so that she'd be able to protect her own identity. And she appeared in a court hearing via webcam, via video cam, late Thursday afternoon. So watch this space for what happens next.
What do we know about the charges she's facing?
Well, so far, she's been charged with 6 counts, including trafficking for minors for sex and with perjury for later denying it. Under oath in 2016, she was questioned at great extent about Jeffrey Epstein, her involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, and she denied everything. So they've got her on perjury as well. Interestingly, these charges, so far anyway, they relate to incidents that took place between 1994 and 1997. They involve 3 unnamed victims, the youngest of which was 14. And the abuse is alleged to have taken place at 4 of Epstein's homes in New York, in Florida, in New Mexico, and actually at Maxwell's house in London.
I'm really curious, Victoria, this place that she was sort of plucked up from in New Hampshire, was it a shack in the middle of nowhere, or was she living in quite luxurious circumstances? What do we know about the life she was leading?
She was living very nicely indeed. She was on an extensive private property, up to 150 acres. It was surrounded by trees in beautiful countryside, locked metal gates at the front driveway so no one could access the property. It was a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom, log-style cabin. But when I say cabin, think luxury cabin. It's a beautiful property. She picked this up in December under a company name in an effort to protect her identity. And she's actually done a number of things to protect her identity. She's changed her email, she changed her phone number. She was said to have been having packages delivered under another name. That name has not been revealed. She's definitely been trying to hide out and fly under the radar. She was also said to have had 15 bank accounts over the last few years. She also had a British, American and French passport. So people are also asking, why did she stay in America, knowing that she was being investigated, knowing there was a high probability she'd be picked up? Why not go to England? Why not go somewhere in Europe? So there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. On that note, US authorities did reiterate today, Thursday, their desire for Andrew to come in and answer their questions. They said they're very keen to hear what he has to say and what he witnessed, given his close friendship to Ghislaine Maxwell.
What does all this mean for Prince Andrew? Does it change things at all?
Well, so far, no, it doesn't change anything. And the reason it doesn't change anything for him at this point is because these incidents are reported to have taken place, the ones specific to this indictment, between 1994 and 1997. Andrew hadn't even met Epstein at that point. But the reason they are so keen to interview him is that Andrew has a decades-long friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell. And we're talking a close friendship. They weren't romantically involved, but they were thick as thieves at certain points. He admitted in his BBC interview that he saw her last year. He said he saw her before Epstein was arrested. But more interestingly, she stayed overnight at Sandringham, the Queen's private residence in Norfolk, where she took part in a shooting party. The Queen was not believed to have been in residence at the time. She was also invited to Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday party at Windsor Castle. Epstein accompanied her to that party. So Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell, they have a long history. They met in New York. She used to invite him to dinner parties when he was in New York. She threw those dinner parties at Epstein's Upper East Side townhouse. So they are very keen to talk to Andrew, but they've also been clear, prosecutors have been clear, they want to talk to him as a witness, not as a suspect. Now, Thursday, Andrew's team, they fought back, saying they were rather bewildered because, of course, there's been this back and forth over whether or not Andrew is cooperating. They are adamant that he has been cooperating with this investigation. They said Andrew's team tried to contact the Department of Justice 2-3 times last month. They're still waiting to hear back. So we've still got a lot of back and forth between parties on that front. But I think probably what's happening, suspecting what's happening here, is that Andrew wants to give a written statement, whereas US authorities are keen to have a chat with him in person.
As you say, the time period for which Ghislaine Maxwell is charged is a different period of time when Prince Andrew was involved with Jeffrey Epstein and meeting him and friends with him and going to the house. But here's the thing.
Yes.
The charges she is facing are incredibly serious and, if proven, would mean an extensive period of time in prison. She's got limited bargaining chips, hasn't she? Because the question then comes, is she going to try and do some kind of deal and provide some other information that may be useful?
Well, that's the million-dollar question right there. And, of course, the minute she was arrested, everyone started. Two topics of conversation came up. Was she going to strike a deal? And was she going to survive in prison? Because while it was confirmed that Jeffrey Epstein, according to the coroner, took his own life in prison last August, there are a lot of people that don't believe that story. And they are concerned that perhaps she might meet a similar fate. So also what is tricky right now is that New York is following very, very strict COVID-19 restrictions, self-distancing restrictions. So the US authorities, they want to keep Ghislaine Maxwell in custody because she poses a tremendous flight risk. Not only does she have an extensive catalogue of international connections, but she's got a significant amount of money as well. So there would be an ability for her to get away. But in keeping her in custody, her lawyers are going to be saying, well, how long are you keeping her in custody? Because right now you can't have dinner inside a restaurant in New York City. When are you going to be able to put a jury together? So, yes, people are wondering if she is going to cut a deal. So while Prince Andrew says he doesn't sweat, I think there's going to be a lot of people sweating right now that she's been taken into police custody.
And that is royal correspondent Victoria Arbiter in New York.